Welcome to A Scrap Life, a podcast solely focused on the hustlers, grinders, operators, and business owners who live and breathe the scrap metal industry every day. Here is your host, Brett Eckhart.
Another Scrap Life podcast, number 475. I don't even know what the number is, to be honest with you. But I'm kind of excited, man. We get to sit here. The guy from all the way from Kansas made the trek. So Levi Morse, and have you got a name for your yard that you're building right now? Have you came up with a name yet? I bet you got to have one.
Oh yeah. So my repair company is Uptime. So I did something crazy and I called it Upcycle.
Okay.
Upcycle for my scrapyard.
Nice. So for those of you guys who don't know, I just want to kind of get that out of the way. Levi, I met Levi in Vegas. Is how I originally got introduced, and I think you were there with your wife, and we were going to breakfast, if I remember right. And it was after a long night of probably drinking too much at Rima and whatever else, and which was Isri at that time. Now it's Rima. But long story short, you came up, introduced yourself, and you had a crazy story for me, which I always be like, oh, he's that guy, the guy that did X. So tell everybody else the story. I don't want to ruin it for you, but do you know which one I'm talking about with the Lamborghini? Yeah. So I mean, if anybody that knows Mr. Beast, you guys will maybe know the story. But fire away, Levi. Let's hear the story right out the gate.
So this is actually a pretty crazy story because think about how it comes together that you actually meet Jimmy. Like if you were to go out and try to do it, it'd just be crazy.
Yeah.
So I had just kind of left the family business and things were kind of shifting. And I was like, man, I just kind of need some jobs. I need some money.
Yeah. And
I get a phone call and from a guy and he says, hey, this is Colin. And I was like, hey, Colin, what's going on? He's like, hey, we just kind of talked with some people and we heard from Zato, which is actually, the company that went through.
Yeah.
And they said you can, build some stuff. And I was like, well, what? Right now I can build anything.
I know how to build stuff.
Yeah. And so the guy's like, well, hey, we want to shred a Lamborghini. And I was like, and it's, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And so
stop calling me.
I was like, okay, guys, I need money. Yeah. Like, this is not funny. And so, lo and behold, just like 3 phone calls later, they're like, hey, we want to come out. And I'm like, okay, they may be serious.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, we had some bad weather, like a bunch of rain or something. So the flights got delayed like 2 or 3 times. And so after no, we're going to be there, man. We swear. I was like, okay, I've been duped. This is funny.
You're waiting for the catfish people to walk in the door.
I
gotcha.
And so, lo and behold, they're like, hey, we're here. And I come out of the office and, I rolled up and I was talking to some guys in the office, came out and there they were. And I was like, okay, this is legit.
Yeah.
Started talking and, I was like, okay, it is they're real, And so just everything transpired into okay, we want to do this. And what if we do this? And I was like, well, we can do this, this, and this. They're like, okay, great. And it was just a long, dramatic pause. And I was like, okay. They're like, okay, let's do it. So I was like, okay, well, what about, the money and what about this stuff? I'm like, don't worry about that. We'll get it. This is going to be great. Because they're it seems like they're just flush with cash.
Yeah.
They're just oh, yeah, it's just whatever.
Uh-huh.
So about a month goes by. I don't hear from them. And I had sent him kind of some rough sketches and just some crappy drawings. They didn't
give you a deposit or anything. They just left. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so I was just like, okay, that was a lot of excitement for nothing.
Uh-huh.
And at this point I was kind of exiting the family business, and so I wasn't just sitting there, on tons of money from our previous conversation. And so I was like, man, this would just be great. If I get this, it's just I've made it.
Yeah.
And so a month goes by. Finally, they call and, I'm like, hey, guys. And they're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm kind of waiting for you guys. Oh, no, we're going to do it. You just you send us a bill. And so, of course, I chalk up what is a load of money for me, at the time with nothing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, here. And so, I don't know if I can.
You get enough money to do the job.
I get enough money to do the job,
okay,
man.
Yeah,
so,
that's all you need to know. I'm good with that.
I was like, okay, life's different. We're getting new cars. And now I was like, oh, wow, this is legit. And so, of course, I don't know if you've seen the video in its entirety to see the whole set.
Yeah, because you had to build like a conveyor to it, like the whole thing. Yeah.
And so it was, it's just like when you're like fabricating something and it has intricate parts, it is so much fab work. Like there's just so many things to weld, to cut, to, like machine. And so he's like, okay, in about a month we'll be back and we want to, kind of see how progress is. And then, we'll talk about the next kind of idea. Because what they like to do is they like to kind of never say, this is how we're going to do it and this is the way it must be, this is it. They like to say, oh, let's look at it. Let's bring in our creative team and say, let's change this. Let's do this. Let's move the whole thing over here. And so, like, there's a whole aspect of their business that is just about asking the right questions. Mm-hmm. And so about a month goes by. They show back up, check everything out, and they're like, this is great. Keep going. Another month goes by, and they're like, okay, in about another month, so 3 months roughly, or 2.5 months, they're like, we want to shoot in 2.5 months. And so we get nearly 95% complete, and we're about 10 days out. And like one of the main components, like on the sprockets and the drives and whatnot, doesn't fit. Like it just doesn't work. And I was like, oh man. So now we've got like 5 days to get, to get it done, get everything, because they want to send, guys out early to start taking angles and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so it is just crunch time. So I call up one of my buddies and I say, hey, I need like 5 guys. Like I need guys now. And there was some other stuff that like when the creative team showed up, they wanted to change and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so we crunched in like probably like 5 guys, and they probably worked like 15-hour days for like 5 days. I mean, they made boatloads of money. And so they were like, this is fantastic.
Yeah, this works.
And so just blasted out this huge project. And then what's crazy is you put in so, months of work, and then you shoot for 1 day. And then they're like, all right, see ya. It's like,
and then the actual video is like how long? Like
it's like
20 minutes.
I think it's like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I was just like,
so you're like,
wow. Yeah.
Which is far from the scrap game.
Yeah,
folks, let me tell you. But when you told me that story, and you gave a little bit better, more detail this time, but. Like I was just like, oh, I've seen that video because I've always been a Lambo fan, right? Mm-hmm. I talk a lot of shit on the internet about want to buy a Lambo, and every time I want to buy a Lambo, I buy a trailer or a truck or a piece of equipment, and I'm like, well, there's another Lambo, but because my real passion is obviously the scrap side. Obviously, it's I'm more passionate about that than I am the Lambo, but I've always kept an eye on that, and so when I remember that video, and then you tell me like, I'm the guy that built that to make, I was like, and then it was in a Zato, and now we own a Zato, and so it's crazy how the world like is full circle, but. I just wanted to get that story, but go ahead.
I left out the best part of the story.
Shoot, let's hear it.
So they sent the car about probably 2 weeks prior to the shoot. And of course there's like talk is starting to go around town because they're like, hey, don't tell anybody, because when like Jimmy shows up, like people just flock. Like,
yeah.
And so they sent the car out a week before, and it's getting backed out of the trailer. Like, because you know how they ship expensive cars.
Oh, yeah.
Neighbor, blowing up. And now everybody knows, like Jimmy's coming to town. So anyways, they sent the title with it, and I went and scribbled on it, got a tag for it, slapped it on it, and I started driving.
Oh, I love it. You've driven a Lambo more than I have.
Oh, dude. And I took it probably at the fastest, probably 55 miles an hour. You can add however much,
Yeah. Use your imagination.
Those things are bullets. Oh. They're so fast.
Have you ever rode
at 55 miles an hour?
Yeah, exactly.
At 55.
Have you ever rode a street bike like a
I'm not a bikes guy.
So I've had dirt bikes, I've had Harleys, I've had, and I remember the day I got on one of those crotch rocket bikes, and I did like a test drive, and keep in mind, I think I wasn't married. I was dating my wife, but we weren't married then. And I just went, and I was like, and I just turned it back in. I said, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
Like, because I know how I am, and I'm like an all gas, no brakes guy. And I was like, I just gave it back to him. I said, this isn't for me.
Money.
Like, this is not. Yeah. So then now that you say that, I wonder if a Lambo is really what I should be driving. But long story short, that's how we met. Yeah. And the reason you're here today is you wanted to kind of you get some ideas and kind of discuss, setting up your own yard, which, like I told you before, so many people have done it for me. And so I enjoy that part of I enjoy the build more than I probably enjoy, in anything else. And so the least I can do is kind of walk you through, and here's our yards and whatever else. But, you come from a family business. And I think that gives you a really strong background in the business. So why don't you give me a little bit of history on your family, your business, like how you got into scrap, and just kind of because you have an interesting story as well. And let's get into it.
So probably 2010, 12 was when my dad kind of got into scrap. It was kind of, and it started, so we were actually it would have been probably 2010. So my dad had come from some bigger businesses and moved to rural kind of town to be closer with family and just kind of raise us knuckleheads because there was 4 boys and a girl. And so we were idiots.
Oh, yeah.
My mom needed
a lot of testosterone in one house. Yeah. I mean, I know how it is having 2 boys and me. So my wife has 3 kids, but like it's a lot of testosterone that flows through our house.
Somebody's got
with 4 boys. Yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah. So he got into some different businesses and just he likes to do a lot of things, which I get it.
Yeah.
And so we ended up getting into custom cutting hay. And so we were interacting with a lot of farmers. And so farmers always have, just old scrap. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we had skid steers and we had trailers and pickups. And so we were hauling into a local yard there in Garden. And fast forward some time, we ended up in another small town and bought a yard and had excavators and, bought the first end dump. And then my dad was doing the trucking and kind of everything, just getting it going. Mm-hmm. And got a call from one of the guys that we were selling to in Garden and said, hey, we want to buy him a yard and down here and down in Perryton. My dad said yes. So he had some early on partners that he kind of went in with in Perryton and maybe not in Garden. But anyways, got it started, got it rolling, got to making some money. And fast forward probably, 12 to probably 8 years or so. And he had bought Perryton, Woodward, Dodge, and we had Garden, and then we rent the place in Liberal that I actually just bought this last year from the city. And so it was kind of like a nice circle. And so there was probably, available probably 4,000 to 5,000 tons of shreddables, and then the shredders were in a decent distance away. Mm-hmm. So if you had a small shredder and you had a good margin, you could make, the business work.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the dream, was the shredder. So I don't know if it was let's just say 5 years ago. So about 5 years ago, and maybe even 6 years ago, we started building and bought a used shredder.
What kind of shredder?
It's a American Pulverizer is the manufacturer, and it was a Magnatech, which was Granutech, which is now 3Tech. They build those mobile shredders.
Yeah. So it was a mobile?
No, it's stationary. Okay. But it was just a private labeled American Pulverizer that Granutech or Magnatech had put together back in the day.
Okay.
And we bought it from maybe Metal X out of somewhere. Anyways, they were using it for shredding irony aluminum, like car engines and stuff. So it's a pretty beefy, it's like a 7272.
Okay.
1250 horsepower AC drive. And we put a Cat 3516 generator on it. So just a really nice, succinct, kind of complete little shredder. Mm-hmm. And if you know anything about shredders, they're monsters. And so it's almost like if you go a little bit smaller it's just not such a massive, like just, they're just,
It's not such a massive undertaking, right?
yeah, it's just not so daunting because shredders are like if I were to give anybody advice about shredders, it's like shredders destroy everything. And like
including themselves and
including like entire companies.
Yeah.
And so you have to be very calculated, talented, and have the right team to run a shredder.
Obviously you have a very, strong fab background,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, or else you wouldn't have got called by Jimmy and had that Lamborghini shredding party. But and one of the things I've noticed lately with you is like your ability to rebuild Sierra Shears and old LeBounties and whatever else. So you have a very strong fabrication background. Your brothers, were they involved in this as well, or was it? And is their background similar, or was it a forced deal? Were you just because you had a shredder and all these yards and this equipment, you kind of had to know how to fab and build? Where does that come from? Is that where that comes from?
Family.
That's a lot of questions, but
yeah, family dynamic. We'll kind of go from that.
Yeah.
So my younger brothers were kind of high school age, so they were available in the summers, but not available all year. And two, in high school, you don't want to. You're going to be an adult for a very long time. And so it's like you want, your younger siblings, like be young.
Yeah,
because, I don't want you to have to help me with the Sierra now and later,
Yeah.
And so their position was they're in high school. They helped out in the summers, and they did a lot of stuff, kind of intermittently. Well, my older brother, Neil, he was in Woodward and running kind of Woodward and Perryton. He kind of managed the guys, the trucking, just the whole 9 yards down there.
Okay.
So he wasn't, as a manager, he didn't have time to be a mechanic. And so we were putting all this, like our 750 and our shredder in the garden yard and then the Zato. And so since my dad was there, he was manager. So it's like if you kind of like do like a hierarchy of like important positions, it's like, okay, we need somebody to put all this and run all this and keep all this going.
Yeah.
And so it's like I think that I just fell into it because I wanted to help the family in the best way that I could. And the next available position was probably the worst position to have. And it was just like, you keep everything running and build things.
Yeah.
And so
is that something you enjoy doing? Like, do you like that? Or is it just something you do because that's what needed to be done?
So I tell people this, and it sounds a little harsh to say it like this. I hate it. It sucks.
Yeah.
But somebody's got to do it. And I don't know if you like follow some of my content, but
Absolutely.
It's like I will do what I have to do, for what I need to do to go where I'm trying to go. And I have no problem with discomfort when it moves me forward in what I need to do. And I think and I'm not trying to be off topic, but I think that young men need to realize that doing what you want to do and what your body wants to do usually isn't the best for you because your body's going to be like, let's just take it easy. Let's eat sugar. We don't need protein. Let's eat sugar.
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily love it because it's very hard work, but it's like you want to build a yard. You want to have this nice equipment. You want to move as quickly as you can. And it's like there's ample amounts of work over the road and in the rain. So and it pays really well.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, it's not that I love it. It's just that it's how the cards fell for me. And I'm okay with that. And as a man, you understand it's like, got to do what you got to do.
If you want to get anywhere in life, you got to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, right? And sometimes that's a labor type position. Sometimes it's a taking a risk type position.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a just getting up and working out or eating the right thing for breakfast position. Like everybody would like to eat fucking Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Like that's my favorite cereal, right? But I know there ain't nothing like that's not going to get me where I need to go today.
Exactly.
It's going to taste good for about 10 minutes. And then I'm like, why'd I do that?
Yeah.
But that's how life is, right?
Yeah.
And so when you see somebody that recognizes that, you're like, and they're just honest with you and say, I don't love fucking doing it, but that's what's required of me today to get where I want to get to. I can appreciate that. And so your brother's managing these 2 yards. Your dad has you fixing and building, right?
Yeah.
The other two, must have 2 younger brothers.
So I have an oldest brother, and he is in Colorado. He does real estate, sells like ranches and properties, and he had some auction company. He just does a bunch of different stuff. But he was separate from the business. He was a part of it very early on, but then separated.
Okay.
And then my sister, who is the youngest, she was, early high school when things were kind of really moving, and now she's in her, early 20s. I think she's even maybe 21. But so her role it never really was necessarily in the yards. And now that my dad has sold and separated from the yards, now she's a part of their life, helping and doing what they're doing now.
Yeah.
And so it's just the role wasn't open for her at the time to be a part of scrap.
Yeah, she was too young.
Yeah, she was too young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get the shredder, you're getting it built. What's the next? Where does it go from there? Do you get it built?
So we finished it, and so this is why I say shredders shred companies. Is with a shear baler, you have blades, bolts, shims, some repacking, some cylinders. Like that's what you probably need on the shelf, maybe some limit switches. But a shredder is you have to have an entire shredder on the ground to run the shredder that you have running. Like you have to have 2 shredders to run one. Yeah. Because it's just the lead time on parts is, it's like, hey, American Pulverizer, I need this bearing. Oh yeah, let me send it to you. Yeah. And it's just everything is specialty. And so if you don't have that stock, ready to go a moment's notice, and then get another one coming, it's a whole different mindset of how to run a yard or a business in general.
Yeah.
And so I think that transfer from small time yard to even just small time shredding facility is a huge jump in infrastructure to support that piece of equipment. And so when you spend all the money, all the time, all the effort to get it running, and you're wanting to make money, you're not even close to making money. Like you're getting ready to start let's start paying this thing off. Yeah. And then we're going to lose money and subsidize it with the business. And it's just that time frame, and just material flowing in, and it's very daunting. And so I think this is kind of the whole like wraparound of why my dad exited the business. I think me coming in, I had this vision of where I wanted us to be. And I think that maybe I even oversized the market as far as material quantity, and took us to a place where not necessarily my dad wanted to go with the business. I was like, we're going to run this thing top end 24 hours a day. Yeah. And he's like, we can. But or we could relax. And at 26, 7 years old, you're like foot on the gas. You're just flowing. I
have a tremendous amount of respect for my dad now.
Yeah.
At that time, but go ahead. Because I know that feeling.
So one of the best things, and this is what I wouldn't say I'm most proud of it, because it was almost in a way on accident, is I never said anything negative to my dad about his decisions. I just always kept my mouth shut. And I'm so glad I did, because you have no understanding. Like 27, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. At even 30 now, it's like you kind of realize you should have shut your mouth. Yeah. And so I'm happy that looking back, I just said, if that's what you want to do, I don't agree, but okay.
So was it his idea to put the shredder in, or was it yours? Or was it
It was his dream that I adopted, and I put my foot on the gas. I was like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it all the way. Yeah. And where the division happened was basically about the time the eddy current conversation was ready to begin. I said, hey, we need to take this next bit of investment and finish the shredding project. And that was shredding and then eddies. I said, what the eddies are going to pay for, basically, like the shredder gets paid for by the steel or gets paid for by the eddies. Yeah. And I said, I don't think that we're going to have the ability to grow the way we need to grow unless we have the complete system. And his take was, well, I kind of want to do some other stuff, diversify a little bit, and and if you guys are going to take this over, like I got to have something to do. Yeah. And I don't think I understood that like I understand it now. Yeah. It's like he was tired of 10 years of digging in the dirt, and scrap is in the dirt.
It's in the dirt. Especially if you're starting from nothing, right? Dirt. Like you're starting from dirt, and it's not a. I was just talking to Brian, who's one of my best friends and our CFO, right? I sit right next to him every day, and my son, who's now my oldest son is 15, And this summer, towards the end of the summer, once basketball was done, I had him in the recycling center because that's where really kind of where I started. And I love the recycling center for kids because it teaches you how to deal with people. You see crackheads, you see grandmothers with 20 pounds of cans, you see business owners who clean up a job site. You get every kind of person, right? Especially at this yard. And so I love it for that because it teaches you how to, like, you don't know what battle somebody's fighting until you walk a mile in their shoes.
Yeah.
And you're seeing people that come in with no shoes and nice shoes.
That's a good
and
quote.
like you just don't know. So I just treat everybody with respect, and it teaches you how to do that, and it teaches you how to work hard. Because here in Idaho, like today's a decent day, but it's been 100 and some change every day leading up to this day. So it's hot. You're opening bags of spit, chewed beer cans and diapers, and dude, it's a nasty job, and you got to be nice to people at the same time, right? Yeah. So I love that for him. But so I'm 44, and he's 15, and I was telling Brian, I was like, man, I remember when I was 15, because my dad had me, well, my mom had me, my dad didn't, but they had me together when they were early 20, like, I think 20 somewhere in that range, right? And so, when my dad was 35, 36, like I was that age. Yeah. And so I've got a few years on him. And I remember sitting in my dad's office, at 15 and coming into the office in the summer. And my dad was a young dad. And he grew up in the scrap business, barely graduated high school, but he got it done. And he only knew. That's what he knew. When the day he graduated high school, he went to work. The day he got married, he went to work, right? And in a very tough environment, not a big facility, family everywhere, probably 10 employees and in the dirt. Yeah. And so, when I talk to my kid and I look at him and I'm like, man, when my dad was 44, like, and here I am at 15, and I think I know everything, and because I grew up in scrapyard too, right? And I can only imagine my dad sitting there like, this fucking kid, what does he know, right? Like, and dude, I was a rough kid. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I was a limit pusher. Probably still am to this day, where I'll push and push and push and see how far I can push, right? Yeah. And so I, looking back now, have the utmost respect for my dad and my mom for the battles they fought to build the foundation that I could build on top of, right? Yeah. And so I know, like, I used to get fucked with a lot in school, like, oh, you work at a scrapyard, your family, like, and it was like nobody's here working at Micron, like we were the cleanest kids, or we were the roughest kids, right? Like, but we weren't afraid of anything. But long story short, like, I look back now and I just know like how hard they fought just for the littlest scraps of anything, and it just gives me that much more appreciation. So, like, hearing you say that about your dad and like that story, you never said anything bad about him or whatever. Because I was in, my dad retired officially, they can say 15, but probably a couple years before that, he was really, kind of just like, you're doing just fine, figure it out, right? Yeah. But, there was some real knockdown, drag out, like, fights, at this yard about shit, and it was like, and now I look back, I was like, man, I was kind of a dick.
No wonder there was a fight.
Yeah, like I was probably said shit I shouldn't have said. Yeah. But now my dad was the best man in my wedding. Yeah. So we've always had a good relationship. We've always been very like blunt with each other. Like,
you gotta be.
Because you have to be very honest. But family business, I have the most respect for family business because it's the hardest. Yeah. It's the most rewarding. Yeah. But like anything, right, in life, the most rewarding is usually the hardest. Like when you do something really big and really hard and it feels good, that's because it was really big and really hard. Yeah. And so if not everybody can fight that fight, and so I'm thinking about your family business and I'm sitting there going, okay, 2000 and what year did you guys sell it?
What are we, 25?
Today's
maybe 22.
22. So in COVID, I always say like everything relative to COVID. COVID was 2020. Yeah. And it was like in the middle of that shit show.
Yeah, it was kind of in the mix of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's usually like my benchmark. I'm like, was it before COVID
Pre-
or
yeah,
after? Because
yeah.
then I can like really kind of search my year out. But
Well, what's crazy is like and it's an odd for me to say it, but as I've gotten older, it's just like the last probably like 5 years is just starting to blur into all like yesterday.
That's why I have to pick a benchmark.
Yeah.
I'm like, was it before COVID? Was it before the 2008 crash?
Yeah.
Was it before like I'm like, give me a benchmark, something I can like work my way back into like mentally, you know?
Yeah, no, it's tough. And
so with your dad and you, right? So how did that conversation go? Like what brought the sale of the business up? Because you guys are cooking right now. You've got would you say you had 5 yards?
Yeah.
So you got 5 yards. Your brother's in the business. You're in the business. Mm-hmm. Your sister's kind of maybe starting to think about it. You know, you got your other younger brothers that are working in the summer. Is your mom in the business?
Yeah, she was doing a lot of
books.
And
the
stuff.
books,
yeah.
same like my mom. So
yeah, it was a very.
How does this all come to be where it's like, okay.
So.
And tell me, like, you don't have to get whatever details you want. Like, I'm not trying to get into the too far in the family side, but.
So I think, and you know, just like on a fundamental basis, I think we had different end goals. Okay. I think that I had a different end goal than my dad did. You know, my mom was there to support my dad, and you know, in any family dynamic, your wife should follow you. She shouldn't pick your kids' choices over you. She shouldn't, you know, like oh, this other guy, you know, it's she should say, like, she should, you know, like tell you like, hey, that's right and that's wrong. Yeah. And I think you should do this, but you guys should be in alignment with each other. And so I think that as I and my brothers got older, where we wanted to go was different than where my dad wanted to go. And my dad, and it only takes about 7 years of adulthood to where you go through a down market and an up market, and then you're going back into a down market. So it's just a really quick cycle. Yeah. And so if you think about even yourself, you saw 2008, you've seen, you know, 2021 or whatever the COVID, whatever it is. And so your perspective of the market, your understanding of the height and the lows and what middle is and what you should do is so much different than mine when I was 25. Yeah. Mine was like, everything is gold and we're going to be rich and you're just moving too slow, old man. Yeah. You know? And so our opinions were so much different because our level of experience was so much different. And so I think that my dad was fighting markets, fighting kids, and fighting, you know, employees and insurance and freaking, you know, trucks and trailers and machine breaking down.
Yeah, it's a beast.
And so it's, you know, and going into your, you know, mid 50s, it's just like, you know, that stress will take a toll on you. I mean, some guys, it just wipes them out, heart attack.
Oh, heart attack. Yeah,
and they just, you know, like some guys can recover, some guys don't. And so I think that my dad's ability to, you know, as at 50-something years old, you've got how many market cycles, you know, how many presidents, how many, you know. And so I think he was looking at what was coming forward and down market, up market, down market, and saying, I'm going to be 65 by the time I go through this next, you know, 3 cycles. Yeah. And even if we got to the goal that the kids are pushing for, it's like we're still going to be, you know, fighting in the dirt. You know, we still ain't even got the money to concrete this whole place. Oh, yeah. So I think he was just like, I fought a long time. I got a lot of equity, you know, and these kids, we're all going to work, you know, we're all going to do something. And I think that he kind of saw that we were not like silver spoon, but like, it's like these kids, it's going to take them a good 5 to 10 years. And I just don't know if I want to sit there and beat my head against theirs when it's going to happen. They're going to learn anyways. Yeah. And so I think he saw a good exit and for himself and for us. And he took it, you know, keeping his equity because he moved into a bunch of farm ground and just some other business avenues. And, you know, the cash flow, big reduction in cash flow because scrapyards are, you know, a high volume business. Yeah. But if you can maintain that equity until another better market comes, then, you know, and you can relax, especially in your 50s. Yeah. It's like it's really not a bad idea. And so I think just why and what happened with the family business is you had such drastic differences in understanding and experience, and it's like, do you fight a good fight, or do you let the world, fight it for you? And it's like, here, you boys go and learn. Like, you're men, guess what's going to happen? You're going to go be men and go learn.
Yeah.
So I think it was, on a very fundamental level, it was just a difference in experience. And and I think looking at it, I think my dad made the right choice for himself.
For him.
Yeah. And for, anybody could say like, well, what about us? And it's like, yeah, but what about him? It's like, you don't have to give everybody the world.
You do not. And I think that's where people get it screwed up. And I think that they do that, or they want their kids to take it over so bad, and their kids may not even be interested, right? Like the flip side is
I think it was the flip side. Yeah.
Maybe you guys were interested, but he was like, I want to do shit that I want to do. I've raised you, I put you through school, whatever you want to do, I got you to here.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation, with my dad and my kids, right? And they're not old enough to all the way understand it, the way they will someday.
Yeah.
But I'm agnostic in whether they're in the business or not. Like the reason my 15-year-old's down here, because I think it's a good life experience.
Yeah.
Not because I think that he needs to know the scrap business.
Right.
Like, I don't give a fuck if you know the scrap. If you want to know it, I got 100 guys that'll teach it to you, right? If you don't want to know it, I'm good with that too, because I can sell it just as easy as I bought it, and probably easier.
Yeah.
But I do it because I love it. Like I'm in it because the shit that we're building here, I'm with all my best friends.
Yeah.
We work together. We build shit together. We invest together. That's why I'm here, right? Yeah. I'm having the time of my life. And some days suck. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, the time of my life some day is like waking up and you lose $100,000 before you take a shit. Like, trust me, like it's a terrible day, right? And sometimes it's $500,000. Sometimes it's more that you lose before you.
I've seen you had a Cinnabug and burnout.
Yeah, I mean that's the day. Those days when you're like, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And those days you're like, really, you love that? And
you
I'm
love
like,
this?
No, that day I didn't, right? Yeah. But you either you recover or you don't. Yeah. And and my dad, I think where I give him a lot of credit is he could see that I had a passion for it, and his passion was over. Like when he was, people were like, your dad retired early. Like your dad retired in his mid-50s. And I was like, he was done. Like my dad's been doing it since he's been 16.
Yeah.
Like he's put in 30 something years of the same
of
shit.
His life.
Yeah.
Like,
and so like
so
now, like at the time I was like, Dad, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? And he's like, son, you know how hard I fought just to get to here? Like let alone
buy that piece of dirt.
Like you want me to put every single thing I own on the line to get to here?
Yeah.
Like if you think you can do it and you want to do it, then you go fight that fight. And I did, right? Mm-hmm. But luckily I had a dad that recognized that I had a passion for it and let me go do it. Yeah. Well, not everybody has that, or not everybody has the passion to fight the fight, you know, anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't make no bones about it. Like someone like your dad, if they're done, they're done. If they're ready to go do something different, they've paid their dues. They gave you a job. Yeah. They taught you the business. If you're still interested, go figure out how to do it, right? And I think there's a lot of ways to exit a business. There's a lot of ways to get into the business. And this scrap industry, because it's so family dominated for so many years and so many generations, you see all the stories, right? The ones that tear a family apart and then build it back and then tear it apart and then this and then people aren't talking to each other for 20 years. Yeah. And growing up, I watched, it was a real family business, and I've told this story a few times, but like my aunts, my uncles, my grandma, my grandpa, I mean, pretty much the people that worked here were family, cousins. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a lot of people, but that's who worked here. Yeah. And then as the family splintered apart, and this guy this and this guy that, uncles that couldn't get along, and finally, like, this uncle went this way, my dad went this way, my grandpa went this way, and it's like they kind of had to break things up, right? Luckily, we didn't ever have a big enough family to have to fight that, but not that there wasn't tenuous times between. I like what you said about, you know, your wife, your dad, your mom, like basically like, hey, your dad's going to make this decision. This is what it is, and she supported it because my mom was very similar. Like even though my dad and I would butt heads, and even though my mom and I, because I had probably more of an accounting brain at the time than say my dad. My dad was an operations guy, and I love operations too. And I can't mechanic for shit, so you have that on me. But my mom and I were very similar in that regard. We're both good at math, both good at numbers, and we could do that part. Where my dad was like, he could see the vision, he needed to do this and he needed to do that. So he really is who taught me that part, and my mom taught me the back end. But there was no bones about it, like whose side she was taking in an argument, right? Yeah. She took his side.
Which you got to have.
And now I look back and I'm like, that's the right thing to do. Sometimes it'd piss me off, but that was the right thing to do. Yeah. And I think that has to go the other way too. Like, and I've noticed this now that I have kids. Like when my oldest son, my youngest son are pushing against Mom, I'm like, even if I agree that they're probably right, I'm like, if I take that side,
y'all are wrong.
I'm like, I'll whoop your ass. Like I'm not going down that path. Like whatever your mom says, like that's what you need to do. That's the right way.
That's what we're all doing.
Yeah, like don't come find me later and say, what was that? I'm like, just whatever she says, that's the way that deal goes. But that's the way it needs to work. Like you gotta have to. Family businesses, there's a lot of side choosing in that deal, right?
Yeah.
So.
I think too, like you see, like a lot of people interact with their family in ways that they wouldn't even interact with strangers, and talk to other people or talk to their family in ways they wouldn't even talk to a stranger. Yeah. And then when I talk to my family and I just give advice and whatnot, I tell them, I say, make sure that you're treating your family better than you would treat a stranger. And there's a lot of people, they'll get to whatever interaction with their family, and the first thing they do is they're cussing and they're mad and they're it's like, and we don't have that issue in my family, but it's like treat your family better. Like you should be treating your family the best.
Yeah,
like, these are your people.
Yeah,
like, these are the things that you're going to experience the most of your life with.
Give them the benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah. Like cuss at the guy that walks in. You don't know him
unless you got unless there's somebody in the family that screwed somebody.
Oh no,
then you can.
Then it's on.
Yeah, I got an uncle like that who screwed some people in our family and be like, why won't you talk to that guy? I'm like, that guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well,
like, if you'll screw your family, you'll screw a stranger.
Yeah, you'll screw a stranger. Well, my uncle just acted a fool just the other week, and my dad had a very stern conversation with him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very stern. And it the family dynamic was like, what's nice about a male dominated family is it's so masculine, and it's just like, well, that's good. He probably needed that.
Yeah.
It's like, and then you've got these other opinions that are like, oh, we can't do this and this. And it's like, no. Yeah. He needed it.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if it's a guy thing or whatever. I think there's some females that are this way, but generally speaking, like as guys, we're more willing to say what's on our mind.
Yeah.
And we don't, and especially if you run a guy like myself or whoever, like I'll just tell you exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah. And I don't pull a lot of punches because I'm like, it's never gotten me anywhere to just like, I'm like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, here's the deal. Here's where we're at. Like, this is what we're thinking. Yeah. But no, I think that is a good, it's an interesting story because, you hear these stories about these multi-generation, fifth generation, fourth generation. How do we get there? Yeah. And for the people that it works for, it's awesome. Right. And I always say, like, if that's what works for your family, and that's what works for your kids, and that they got a passion for it. I'm thankful my grandpa was able to get it started. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful my dad was able to keep it alive long enough for me to fall in love with it, right? And not that my dad did a bad job. I mean, but he did it. Him and my mom did a good job, right? Now, it was up to my friends and I to come in and really build the machine, right? Yeah. But we wouldn't have had that chance if he wouldn't have kept it alive long enough and put enough of a foundation under it to give us a fighting chance, right? To build off of some equity, Mm-hmm. And that's what it takes in this business to a certain extent. If you've got a property payment and you've got an equipment payment and this payment, that payment. I mean, you're talking about an industry that's been alive for a long time, so there's a lot of players in it.
Yeah, they got a lot of equity.
And they got a lot of equity, and they got a lot of relationships. Mm-hmm. So to start new, which is what you're doing to a certain extent, right? What is your biggest challenge that you see, and what's the biggest opportunity that you see putting a brand new yard in?
So biggest challenge is, of course, financing right now. You want to buy all of the equipment really nice, brand new, here we go, let's make money. But if you're spending all your money on equipment, I mean, you're not going to go pay cash for a new Cinnabog. I ain't going to go pay cash for a new Cinnabog. You know, you've seen them. You know exactly how much they cost. I know what they cost.
Yeah.
And so you've got financial struggles, and it's just part of it. You know, and like you said, there's a guy that's been there for 20 years who owns every inch of dirt, every piece of equipment, every ounce of scrap that's on his yard. And so it's like you're starting out at a deficit, and so you just, take that into account. So the financial deal. And then you've got that first month or two where you've bought the scrap and you're waiting on money to come in for what you sold, and so there's there's a time frame in there, and then just setting up a yard, in scales, equipment, payroll, and so you're just onboarding like a huge expense just to start the business. And let's just say it's $500,000, for the first 2-3 months. Yeah, it's like just starting out, and you got to find $500,000 of cash laying around. It's not there. You've got to get creative. Yeah. And so like you can buy, sell, flip, shred, flip non-ferrous. You can start with, $100,000 and make it into $500,000 into 3 months. Like if you're very tactful with it. Mm-hmm. And so the difficulty is just the initial cash investment, the initial startup costs, just for everything. And so it's just a very difficult process to begin. And so I could have, and we talked about this, I said I could have probably opened the yard up 4 months ago. But from coming from a yard, I know how expensive it is the second you turn the lights on. Yeah. And it's like you think you have $100,000, it's going to be great. And it's like that $100,000's gone in 4 days. Yeah. And the guy's like, "You buy copper? How much you got?" "I got 25,000 pounds." Yeah. It's like, "Well, I don't buy that much copper, Yeah. And so for my wife and I both, we've been very frugal. We've been saving our money for a lot of years, just not because we haven't had not that we haven't known what to do with it. It's that we understand how much it's going to take just to start. And for example, like, when you see metal sitting in the corner of the yard, that's money. Yeah. And if you're just starting out and you've got that pile, there's like 40, you start seeing $40,000 sitting around. Yeah. And it's month number 2, you're like, we need that, And so it's just one of the biggest challenges for getting the yard going is just the turning the lights on, the initial investment. And so I'm taking everything super slow. I'm in no rush. And I've talked to my brothers about it and you'll understand this. And there's such a huge advantage for some of these big yards that are ingrained in just the prime locations, and the cities have been built around them. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't buy what they have. Yeah. And so when you take that into consideration, and this piece of property they bought that has rail access in a town that would require multi-millions of dollars just for a 1 foot of track because of how the rail needs derail and different things, it's like that piece of property, just by purchasing it and making payments on it, you're leagues ahead. Mm-hmm. So now you don't need to rush. Like, now is not the time to rush and throw it all in the trash. Yeah. Now is the time to just make it work. Whatever that time frame is, if it's a year, if it's 10 years, to make it work for your dad, where it's like, "Here, son, I did the groundwork. I ensured that you even have this 4 acres. This 4 acres is what I give to you." It's like, so for me, I'm like, as long as I don't mess up, everything's great.
Well, so you'll mess some things up, but as long as you don't make the big mistake, right?
Exactly.
You can make a lot of little ones, but as long as you avoid the big one. Exactly. And the big one in this business comes, they're out there everywhere, right?
Like you see, right now, and in the last, year, and I don't remember the previous one, but I know that, and I've talked to a lot of guys, and a lot of the equipment that I've acquired has been because the market's just burned them up. Mm-hmm. I mean, then the market's vicious. Yeah. And so I'm just going slow and steady. And if I win in 5 years or I win in 10 years, that 5-year difference for as long as life is, it ain't going to matter. Yeah. And so I'm just making sure that everything I do is calculated. And I think, and another big thing too, and I've been telling people this lately, I have such a rich life right now with my wife, with my young kids, baby on the way. My parents have their health. And so it's just, there's
so much to be grateful for, right?
There's so much to live for right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be the guy that's like, I got to do this, so I have this, because then you get there and all the things that were truly what you would spend every dime to have back is now gone. I'm just like, I don't want to be that guy that looks back and says, I worked when I should have sat and just soaked it in. I had to, like, my wife posted something really beautiful the other day about just being in the moment with our son. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I need to make sure that when I hit 45, and I've got these freaking teenage knuckleheads running around, that I'm not like, I miss my babies. And maybe I should knock my wife up. Well, maybe not. It's like,
speaking of expenses.
Honey, I know we're 45, but we're going to have a kid. So I'm just living such a good life right now, and I just don't want to. You can always work, and like we said, there's always scrap out there.
Yeah, there's going to be work.
There's always going to be, somebody's like, "Hey, you guys buying cans?" It's like
it's a balance of trying to go fast, but trying to understand what going fast can cost you, right?
Yeah,
it's like it's no different than a race car or a Lambo. Mm-hmm. Like 55 in a Lambo feels like you're barely moving, right?
Yeah.
And then you get, but you can go 100 just like that. But if you go 100, you got to understand, like, when you're going 100 miles an hour down the road and something as little as just skips across the road, like that one quick thing can ruin the whole day, ruin the whole deal, right? Yeah. So there is a measured pace that is hard to find in this business because it is cyclical, right?
Yeah.
So when it's hot, everybody's like, it's go time, we got to go. And I've always said, if you take a 10-year period in our industry, there's 2 years you can make good money. Mm-hmm. There's 2 years that you're just trying not to die, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. And the balance is you're just trying to break even. You're just trying to keep the lights on, right? Maybe there's those break-even years that if you can just keep things moving to get to the 2 good ones. Yeah. Maybe there's a decade where you get 3 good ones and 2 bad ones, but then there's the decades where you get 3 bad ones and maybe 2 good ones. Yeah. But those are the cycles, right? Yeah. It's a very cyclical business. So at the pace, the speed you want to go, you have to know that those rocks in the road are going to exist. You just don't know when. Yeah, and you can't predict them. Yeah. My wife and I got married in 2008. And 2008, anybody knows this industry, 2008 was like the prime. Mm-hmm. It didn't get any better than that. I started in the business full time when I graduated school in 2004. From 2004 to 2008, we just had this yard, and it was a smaller yard, and we had a little feeder yard in Mountain Home, which we ended up closing down. But long story short, from 2004 to 2008 was one of the best runs you can have in this industry. And I asked my dad, I'm like, and we were making money, we were making good money. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how did it take you guys so long to make money in this business? I'm like, what have you been doing? This is pretty fucking easy. Like every month, the price was better than it was last month. Yeah. And the material just kept coming. Yeah. And it kept coming. And it kept coming. And the higher the price got, the more material kept coming, which means the more money you could make, the margins were better. And I was like, I just don't understand how you can't make money in this business, right? Yeah. And then we got married in July. And by September, the market went from 600 to 0. Like, you couldn't even sell this shit. Couldn't sell scrap. And my dad just looked at me, he goes, remember the other day you were asking me
you mouthed
how can you not make money? Let me explain to you. Yeah. Now the only goal you have is to not die. Yeah. Like, you went from king of shit mountain to just hopefully you don't die in the next year or two because you can't even sell the scrap. Yeah. You have no place to go with it. And if you do want to ship it, the freight's more than what they're going to even pay you for it. And guess what? You paid X amount of money for that scrap. So anything you do ship, you're going to be negative. But guess what? You're going to have to take the negative. You're going to take the hit because you need the money. Yeah. And he's like, good luck.
Yeah.
And I was like,
start out now.
Yeah. And so you learn that lesson, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh.
Yeah, I see. Which is one of the best lessons
it's you could ever learn. It's the best lesson, but it's one of those lessons that until you live it, until you breathe it, until you feel the pain, right? You got to get there. So I commend you for being, like well thought through in the process and understanding the family dynamic. I mean, that's I bought a business in Indiana a handful of years ago, probably 5-6 years ago now. And it was a business that we're for our pipe company anyways. and they had a manufacturing facility, and and they had shut it down, mothballed it, and then we bought all the IP and the equipment, and we restarted it, right?
Yeah.
And so then I had to go around. I was trying to, and we hired this gal to kind of set up dealers to sell our pipe, and I was flying everywhere. I was Florida, the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and we're trying to set up dealers to sell our pipe. And I remember coming home one day, and my wife was like, I didn't sign up to be a single mom. Like, you realize that, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, she goes, you have, like, what more do you need? Like, you have all these yards in Idaho, in Oregon. At that time, we had the second yard in Oregon going. She's like, you have pipe businesses, you have scrap yards. Like, why are you flying? I was like, that's what needs to happen. Like, that's the way we set these dealers up. They want to hear. And then she's like, no, like, I didn't sign up for this. Yeah. And it was like a real, like, check for me. And I'm glad she did it when she did it, because that my youngest boy at that time was 5, and he's 12 now. So maybe he was like 6. And my older boy was, a few years older than him. So, he was maybe 9 or 10. And I was just like, you're missing out on all the good times. Yeah. Like the best years. Mm-hmm. And she's a school teacher, so she understood. Yeah, she knows kids, right? And she's like, and dude, she called me out. And she's like, you're fucking up. Like, and not saying it that way, but just like, you're missing out on a lot of good things trying to set up dealers to sell pipe.
Yeah. Well, then your wife did what your wife is supposed to do. Yeah. She is supposed to tell you, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. Like, your goal is to go out there and make money. Mm-hmm. And there's unlimited money to make. Yeah. And so that's like my whole approach to this is just like listening to guys like you is like, I don't want to make the same mistake. And it's like, I just don't want to miss that time. And don't get me wrong, I would love to travel all the world, make a ton of money, have nice cars. I would. Yeah. But I'm just like, man, I hear you. Yeah. And so I'm just like, man, I'm going to listen to him.
There's like a balance.
He's a smart guy. I'm going to listen to him.
There's a balance in there. And I think when you find it, and for you to be as young as you are and to have found that, or at least understand it, and while you still work through it, I think is super, that's awesome. And I think you understand like what's really important. Now, don't get me wrong, like I want to buy more scrap and more yards and cut material and do what I do, but I have also decided, okay, there is a balance in there somewhere that I'm going to have to find. And I hate to like balance this and fucking that. And like, because some days it's 100% work and 0% home. Yeah. And some days it's 100% home and 0% work. Yeah.
I spent 2 weeks in Wisconsin fixing a machine.
So it's like, so right? But as long as you remember, like, I got to put that time in. I got to fill up that other bucket now, because I filled the money bucket. Yeah. Now I got to fill up the home life bucket and try and, work through it. Then I think that's, that's quote unquote balance.
Yeah. Yeah. My whole kind of deal with like everything you do and all the money you make is just your time invested. So right now I'm making sure that if I'm making good money, I don't have nice trucks back at home that it's going into. It's because, I'm getting started. When you're fresh, every dime you earn is a dime you worked for. Yeah. And so it's like, for me, it's like, if I can allocate it back to my local community, then you can manage, your company or whatever, for 8 hours a day. You got to do something. Yeah. And so I know that if I can build enough back home, I will get a good enough return to where I can do kind of like what you're doing, where you've got different things and you're working with your friends and you're super competitive in your market to where you have an advantage. So that's kind of like, if I'm going to be working and it's going to be out in the rain and the dirt and on Sierras, it's like, I ain't coming home to a nice truck. Yeah. It's like, I'm coming home to junk.
Yeah, I want to come home because I'm going to put that money, I'm going to put it to work. Yeah. Like it was like Kevin O'Leary on the Shark Tank. He's like, cash flow. Yeah. We need cash flow. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you sitting down. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they reach out? I mean, you post a lot of awesome videos on Facebook. Follow him. Levi Morse on Facebook. You'll see some of the stuff he's doing as he kind of works through. If you're somebody out there trying to put together a yard yourself, like connect. Like, hey, what's worked for you? Or, help each other out there. Like, that's what this whole deal is about. How do they get a hold of you?
Just social media. I mean, everybody's so connected anymore. I was like, here's my number, here's my email. Just like Facebook. Yeah. Instagram. I mean, we're so connected. So it's like any form of communication. Like, I'm on my phone. You
Yeah.
know, I see it. If
Yeah.
I don't answer, I probably don't want to answer it.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I'm out there.
Thanks for coming out, man. Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go finish the day.
Okay.
All right. Take care.